But as I listened to the debate, I kept asking myself one question. Before we introduce more foreign languages into our education system, have we adequately considered a language that is already needed by the people living among us? There's a language that is really needed by the people that are living among us. And I'm not even referring to our local languages, the Ghanaian Sign Language. So while the Ghana National Association of the Deaf has actually continued to call for stronger inclusive education and greater incorporation of sign language into our education and professional training, all they now hear is Mandarin Chinese language introduction, Arabic introduction. For real. Ladies and gentlemen, Ghana's education system has once again entered the conversation today. And this time, the controversy is around the introduction of foreign languages into our schools. I have observed a lot of discussion going around surrounding the Ministry of Education and their introduction, or I would say promotion of foreign languages. And I think the most trending one is the introduction of the Mandarin Chinese and Arabic within Ghana education system. And of course, this has guaranteed different opinions. The discussion is coming with a whole lot of controversial opinions. Some people are asking the benefit that these languages will bring to these students, and others are looking at the economic and diplomatic opportunities that are tied with this kind of learning foreign people's languages. They are saying that, learning foreign languages helps, and honestly, I do understand every perspective. I've looked at all the perspectives, and yeah, we actually live in a globalized world. And so for me, as it stands, I can see China is a major economic power, as well as the Arab world. The Arab world has enormous economic, diplomatic, and cultural influence. So yeah, there is nothing actually wrong with a Ghanaian student learning Mandarin, Chinese, or Arabic. For me, I don't have any problem with that. In fact, I think learning foreign language can be a good thing as an extracurricular. But as I listened to the debate, I kept asking myself one question. Before we introduce more foreign languages into our education system, have we adequately considered a language that is already needed by the people living among us? There's a language that is really needed by the people that are living among us. And I'm not even referring to our local languages. Maybe that's what they're thinking. It's something more important than the local languages. And that language is what I am about to talk about today. The Ghanaian Sign Language. Yeah, ladies and gentlemen. And let me let you know this. If there is one language that I believe deserves a serious consideration in this present moment, and for broader discussion across all platforms and within the ministry, I think it should be the introduction of Ghanaian Sign Language. There are Ghanaians among us every single day who communicate differently from the majority of us. And for years, anytime I meet one of them, I struggle to even communicate to them. The last time I met one, I really wanted to tell her how beautiful she is. But here I am. I couldn't even say anything because I don't know how to talk to them. I don't know how to communicate with them. You see, we have largely treated this kind of people as though their issue don't really matter. And we are actually basing much importance on something I feel we shouldn't base much importance on. Because we have some of these people in our family. They are family members. We have them as colleagues. We have them as students. Some of them are even good to the extent that they are entrepreneurs. Some of them are into some professions actually. We have some of them around every day, you see them. But how many of us watching me can actually communicate with these people? The truth is, it's very few of us. So when I saw this brouhaha about the introduction of foreign languages into our system, I said to myself, if I were the minister today, maybe I will look at something different from all these things. And what I will look at is what I have mentioned, the Ghanaian sign language. Something that no one can actually deny. When I say I want to introduce as a minister, who can deny this? And that wouldn't be an issue for an argument, a brouhaha causing a lot of issues here and there. Imagine having a family member who cannot hear you and you cannot communicate with them. Imagine going to a hospital and struggling to explain your condition to someone because nobody understands your language. Imagine going to a police station with an issue. You get there and the police cannot understand you. You go to a government office, nobody understands you. You go to a bank, nobody understands you. Everywhere you pass, even in church, nobody understands you. Unless there is a specialist around to interpret your situation for people to understand. Oh, I think we should end this Arabic, Mandarin Chinese language introduction argument, and we should look at something that is worth looking at. And so, curriculum builders, please hear me out. The plight of the deaf people have been far too long ignored, and I hope this message gets across. Let's put the structures in place so that every child going through primary school, alongside the English and whatever other language that they are learning, they are being introduced to basic sign language. If we all were introduced to basic sign language from the beginning, maybe by now there should be enough, a little, that we could communicate with these kind of people. How to greet them, how to ask them simple questions like, are you okay? What is your name? Do you need any help? Where do you live? Yes, these simple things. And maybe the one that I missed, that I wanted to tell her that you are beautiful, but I couldn't know how to communicate. Now imagine thousands of Ghanaian children growing up with that ability to be able to communicate with them. And so it doesn't look like a deaf person will now be facing challenges everywhere he passed. And so yes, we wouldn't also have to rely on specialists every single time for basic communication. Everyone can actually communicate with them. And that is what we call inclusion. It helps the nation. It helps the churches, religious bodies. It helps businesses. It helps everybody. So let's not build a society where education only prepares you to compete for jobs. Let's also build a society where education prepares you to live with other human beings in dignity, irrespective of their condition. That is the humanity that I'm talking about. Can we forget the introduction of other languages and focus on this? Now somebody may say, Kofi, but why are you comparing sign language with Mandarin and Arabic? I am not necessarily saying they are the same. The point I want to establish is the fact that we have priorities. And if government is going to introduce additional languages into the educational system, I think on the scale of preference, this one should be a priority. Because let's ask ourselves, what language will have the greatest immediate social impact on the Ghanaian society that we already live in right now? And for me, sign language deserves a very serious attention. It deserves a very serious critical look at, because Mandarin may help us to be able to communicate with a Chinese, and Arabic may also help us to be able to communicate with an Arab person. So these are valuable skills, of course, but then sign language can help us communicate with our own fellow Ghanaians who are sitting next to us in the car that we really want to communicate with, but we cannot. And you see, another important issue here is that inclusion should not mean expecting the excluded person to always adjust to the majority and feel like they have to do something to fit in. Because for years we have effectively told people with disabilities this, and that is, we always like try to tell them to come and fit into our world. But perhaps we should also be asking, what are we doing to make our world accessible to them? Because imagine me standing in court as a deaf person trying to explain something to the judge with my hands, and the judge is like, Kofi, please get an interpreter. And I'm like, Your Honor, I thought we were all supposed to know sign language. Why should I get an interpreter? I mean, this is just a joke. But seriously, at this point, I'm advocating for inclusion that becomes a culture, not through one big government program alone, but through an entire generation growing up with the ability to communicate with a fellow human being. Maybe Ghana should become the country where when you come, almost 90 to 99.9% of the people understands the deaf person. Maybe Ghana should be known for that. That is the kind of language we should be fighting about being introduced in our schools. And I see the bigger picture. Don't think of sign language only as something for teachers. Think about the industries and the professions that can also benefit. In fact, some of these guys are very good and skillful. And the media, the healthcare, the legal services, customer service, public administration, banking, technology, education, police, security services, and all the other sectors can actually benefit from them. But you see the problem, we don't have a system to integrate them, to be able to put their skills into effect. So at the end of the day, we may be looking at a talented person but deaf, and that's simply because we don't have a culture where almost everybody understands their language. We cannot accommodate them because we don't understand their communication needs. And that is not just a social problem, it is a human resource problem. I think HRs should also be part of this advocacy, because some of these people have great skills, but the workplace is not feasible for the deaf. We have to also introduce sign language because it is important. Because human beings with hearing disabilities are also part of our society, and they are equally important. They need to be everywhere, in every company, in every sector. Interestingly, my research findings suggest that Ghana has already started some steps in this direction. I read somewhere the Ghana Education Service and the NACA have been working on a harmonized Ghanaian sign language curriculum with a pilot covering pre-tertiary education. I think it's from KG through to SS, and I think this should be quick, and it's a good thing. So my argument is not that Ghana should start from zero. My argument is that we should take this much further and quick, and make inclusion genuinely mainstream. And perhaps this is the conversation we should be having. This is the language we have to look at. And so the Ministry of Education, this is my humble suggestion. If we are reviewing our language policy, if we are actually looking at additional languages for Ghanaian students, please let us not overlook sign language. On the scale of preference, I think it should be the first. Make it part of the national conversation. Consider introducing basic sign language at the basic school level. Train teachers, develop appropriate teaching materials, work with deaf communities and other sign language experts, so that gradually we expand this initiative, we expand its accessibility across all public institutions. Yes, I am actually advocating for this because there is evidence that this issue is significant enough to deserve attention. So while the Ghana National Association of the Deaf has actually continued to call for stronger inclusive education and greater incorporation of sign language into our education and professional training, all they now hear is Mandarin Chinese language introduction, Arabic introduction. For real. So yeah, ladies and gentlemen, to end, whilst we are pushing to learn languages that open door to China, whilst we are trying to push languages that will open door to the Arab world, let's not forget to push languages that open doors of communication to people who are already standing beside us. Because what is the point of becoming globally connected if we remain disconnected from our own people? And perhaps that is my biggest worry. Before we teach our children how to speak to the world, we must have taught them how to speak to everyone in their own society, in the culture that they find themselves, the nearest person, the other person close to him. For me, if there's one language that Ghana's education system should seriously consider making accessible to every Ghanaian child, it should be the sign language. And for now, I'll end it here. Ladies and gentlemen, I am Sikadwa Kofi, and this is my point of view as usual. If you agree with me, let me know in the comment section. And if you disagree, that's also fine. Let's have the conversation going. God bless you, and it is bye bye for now.